Shabbat Institute of Eastern Christian Studies, which is a faculty of the Regis St. Michael College of the University of Toronto. I'm good friends with Father Deacon Andrew Bennett. We go back many, many years, and so it was a real joy to accept his invitation, extended through your wonderful community, to come and to be present here with you this morning, and I hope that we can develop an even deeper relationship with the Shabbat Institute in the future. Shabbat Shalom.
Thanks.
Shabbat Shalom. My name is Father Andrew Taylor. I'm a Roman Catholic priest. I'm the associate pastor, so the assistant at Synagogue Parish, which is about 2 kilometers west of here, just on the other side of Bennett Street. I got to know Father Deacon Andrew Bennett a couple of years ago in Ottawa when I was there on another curial posting, actually also working with Father Michael Baum back in Calgary in my service to the office there. But after getting to know him, we stayed in touch after my return to Toronto in July last year, and I was very grateful to receive this invitation to come to pray with you, and especially as an expression of solidarity, recognizing the particular place that you're in, both internationally but also here in Toronto. It's been a very painful thing for me personally to watch all of the difficulties, and so I hope I'm glad to join, just as a show of our own care for you as our brothers and sisters, as people of faith.
Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom. My name's Christopher O'Connor, good friend of Andrew, Father Deacon Andrew Bennett. I hold no special ecclesial title, so forgive my boringness. I'm married, I have some children, that's work in and of itself. Lots of work. Why I'm here, Andrew has many friends. I'm happy to be one of them. And we called a few weeks ago, and he says, hey, what are you into? You know, long time no see, long time no talk. I said, well, I'm reading and researching on Judaism, because what better else to do? So I like religion, I'm Roman Catholic, and so he said, well, come visit me to the synagogue. I thought, absolutely. So so I'm happy to be here and looking forward to encountering the Jewish faith and Jewish people. So God bless you. Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom. My name is Joe. I'm a friend of Andrew Bennett's and happy to host him always here in Toronto. I am an architect here, and actually my first complete project was a renovation of the River Synagogue in Harvard Village, which was an amazing experience to understand the space within the shul, how it works, and to get to know that community, which is really, really interesting and thriving. But despite that, I had never been to a Saturday service, and so this is my first time. So when Andrew mentioned he was coming, he was going to talk, I thought this was a great opportunity to experience that. I'm a Catholic, and I'm part of St. Thomas's Parish at the University of Synagogue College, and involved in the music ministry there. And I will just say that cantor and the beautiful chanting has just been wonderful to see, and just really, really beautiful. So that's been a great blessing.
Kazan, you're a fan.
And I guess lastly I'll say another reason that I wanted to come so badly and that I'm happy to be here is just, I share your sense of struggle, I think, seeing what is happening in Israel, and particularly the response from countries in the West and even leaders of our own church. I think the strength and resilience of Israel, the strength and resilience of its people, has been a great source of inspiration for me over the past few months, even as it has been very painful. So it is a blessing to be here and to share worship with you today, and I'm looking forward to this amazing conversation.
Thank you. I don't know how amazing it will be because we only have a few minutes, but let me just say thank you so much on behalf of everybody here. It means more than you know to have to have you with us this morning. As I said, it's been a lonely time, and to have friends here from other faiths is gives us tremendous strength. I'm going to compliment again Reverend Bennett on his speech this morning. We're not Christians, but if we were, I think we'd all be convinced that if we were Christians, we'd have to love the Jews, right? So my question to him, I'm guessing many of you have a similar question. If it's so obvious, I'll get it for you. If it's so obvious that to be a Christian means to stand against anti-Semitism, or even to admire and love the Jewish people, why not even more signatures to the Declaration? What challenges have you been facing when you bring this document to other Christian leaders and they say, we're not going to sign? How do they see, how do they rationalize their approach?
That's an excellent question, and certainly, now, it's not to say that we can't have more people signing. It's not sort of closed off. We gave ourselves a sort of 2-month period, but I think two issues come up. One is a more challenging issue, and the other one is kind of one that can be explained. So I had one pastor who came to me and said, well, I like what you're doing, but what about the Palestinian Christians? And I said, well, absolutely, we need to pray for the Palestinian Christians who are caught in a very difficult situation and have been for centuries. We can pray for them. We can send support through different pontifical charities and so forth, aid to the Church in need. But that doesn't mean we can't stand up for our neighbors, our friends, our co-workers, our fellow students, Jews here in Canada who are being attacked. It's not a zero-sum game. You can do both at the same time. And he signed. So I think recognizing that this is not just about doing this and not doing that obviously as Christians we have a particular duty to our brothers and sisters in Christ, but we also have a duty as citizens and as Christians who confess Jesus Christ to stand with Jews who are facing attacks and so forth. The other issues are harder, why people might not sign. And it's because we have done a very bad job, both as Christians and as Jews, of getting to know one another. And so I would say a lot of Christian leaders don't know what to say, when to say it, where to say it, or frankly, why to say it. They simply don't have the language. And so they don't, I think a lot of them, they don't want to say the wrong thing. They don't want to be seen doing the wrong thing or alienating people. And so it's a, frankly, it's a bit timid. It's a timid response. But it demonstrated to me that we need to do a better job as Christians to give, our priests, our pastors, our bishops, and so forth, the language they can use to speak out.
So just for those of us who have not seen the Declaration, what language did you choose? And I'm sure there was some debate about what exactly should be included in this Declaration.
There wasn't too much debate. I just wrote it. I said, if you want to sign it, great. If you don't, well, it's fine. I wasn't going to change it. So it basically talks about the situation as it is. We didn't equivocate about what's going on. We didn't engage sort of both sides.
Did you mention Israel?
We mentioned the geopolitical situation, and we did mention Israel, but it was not a geopolitical statement.
Right.
We referenced it, but it was a theological statement, basically a summation of what I said here today.
Right.
And then I wanted to focus very much on the anti-Semitism in Canada, but recognizing that, and Christians need to understand this, you cannot separate out Israel from the Jewish people. And so that is something that we need to be able to communicate better as Christians. So not to equivocate on Israel. We can all disagree with, the policies of the Israeli government. We can disagree with the policies of the Canadian government, the British government. But to not understand that Israel is the homeland of the Jewish people and how that is bound up in the identity of Jews around the world, if we don't understand that, then we can't have a coherent message.
statements every so often that larger church denominations issue, and nothing makes my blood boil more than getting these statements. I don't think anybody's gotten it right. Is your sense that these statements, that particularly the progressive, liberal Christian denominations are making, is it coming from what you just described, that is timidity, lack of understanding, a desire to include Palestinian Christians in the discussion, or is it coming from some other place?
That's part of it. But I think the other thing for some Christian denominations that I'm sorry to say have embraced a certain conception of social justice that is divorced from the gospel. If you put the gospel first, if you put Christ first, and you have an authentic lived out Christian faith and Christian tradition, then you're going to get those social justice concerns right. But if you flip it around and you're just focused on social justice, you're going to get things wrong, because you're going to be prey to certain ideologies and ideas that are fundamentally not Christian. And I'm sorry to say that there are certain denominations in this country that have fallen prey to that. And they have embraced, in some cases, a significant sort of cultural Marxism that uses all this language around colonialization, and it's wrong. And I'm sorry, it is not Christian. And I will say that not just in the synagogue, I will say that publicly. And so those denominations have to be asked, why do you say that? This is not a Christian statement. This is another sort of ideological statement. It is not a Christian statement. And we have come a very, very long way as Christians in our relationship with the Jewish people, that we should know better now how to phrase statements and how to stand up. But I think also, the reason I said statements are okay, but then you have to actually act.
Right.
We can say all sorts of things, but if we don't act on them in ways that are positive, we can act on them in very negative ways. We've seen that in the streets of our country and on our campuses. I graduated from McGill. It's disgusting to see what is happening on the lower campus on Sherwood Street there. But I think we can, as Christians, we have a responsibility to get things as right as we can and to understand these issues and not to confuse them.
Help me understand that responsibility, because I think a lot of us are going, wow, this is amazing what he's doing. Why is he doing this? What do you get out of championing this cause? Besides probably a lot of disappointment and hate mail from people who don't like what you're doing. Why is this cause important for you?
Because I'm a baptized Christian. I've joined myself to Christ, and I can't.
Help us understand.
Sure.
I've never heard that before, that being a Christian means standing up against anti-Semitism.
Well, it means many things, of course, but anti-Semitism is incoherent with the Christian faith. Now, there have been a lot of Christians that have done wicked and awful things to Jews over the centuries. But that doesn't mean that even then it was incoherent. It was always incoherent. And so I think that, for me, also growing up here in Toronto, I'm a Toronto boy. I grew up just down the road in sort of Davisville and Mount Pleasant. My dad had his business for many years at Bayview and Eglinton, basically. I grew up in a fairly waspish Catholic environment. And there was a lot of polite, subtle anti-Semitism. Now, my parents, very faithful Catholics, good people, did not engage in that sort of thing. But there was this sort of just unspoken understanding that you just didn't have Jews as friends. We had our clubs, you had your clubs. We went to these schools, you went to those schools. And there's the off-color jokes and so forth. And so I remember that growing up and thinking, even as little Andrew, that just didn't seem right. And I think also just growing up, having a lot of good mentors. And I didn't have any Jews growing up as friends. I didn't know very many Jews. But then having examples of people who I knew Metropolitan's Palace in Lviv and the monastery that Blessed Clement was the abbot of in Buniev, just near Lviv. I'm actually giving a talk on Monday at the ceremony of the National Holocaust Remembrance Ceremony of the Memorial about the two Sheptitsky brothers and the Blessed Ognyan Koch, who was the pastor of Majdanek. These priests of our church, these bishops of our church. So they inspired me. And so it behooves me as a Christian, as a Catholic, as a Ukrainian Greek Catholic, to remember their memory and to do what they did.
Wow, beautiful. Can I ask if anybody has a question? We probably have time for 2 questions for Reverend Bennett. Jason.
I'm wondering if you can comment on supersessionism, the idea that, Christians have superseded Judaism. You talked today about being grafted into Israel, but there's terminology or imagery of that in the Christian Bible that feels anti-Semitic to me. I'm wondering if you can comment on that and how you have reinterpreted that, or perhaps interpreted it correctly as you see it, and how that makes a big difference in terms of whether or not, as a Christian, you hold an anti-Semitic perspective or you Semitic philic perspective. Thank you.
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask a theological question. Okay, so everyone understand the question? It's theology. Supersessionism, the idea that the new covenant has replaced the old covenant, and the new people have replaced the old people. It can give way to a sense that the Jews are rejected by God, and therefore any efforts to help them is going against God's will. So how do you comment on that?
Sure.
So it's an easy one for you.
Yeah, exactly. So as Catholics and certainly as Orthodox Christians, we reject that idea. I don't know the full history of supersessionism, but it doesn't come out of the apostolic churches. It's my understanding, it's a Protestant theological concept, and so we do not accept that. Our understanding is that the law, the covenants, and the prophets are fulfilled in Jesus Christ. So I'm going to tell you a little story. There's a professor of Orthodox theology in the United States, Dr. Peter Bennett, and I think he still teaches at St. Vladimir's Orthodox Seminary just outside of New York. And he was invited by a shul in Manhattan. They were having a series on understanding different faiths or something like that. And so they invited Dr. Bennett to come down and give a talk, similar to what I did. I don't know if it was on Shabbat or another time, but he gave this talk. And he was introduced, and he came up and he said, I'm Dr. Peter Bennett, professor at St. Vladimir's, and I'm an Orthodox Christian. And what that means is that I believe that Jesus Christ is the incarnate Son of God. He is the promised Messiah, one in the most holy Trinity. And that is true for me, and it's true for all of you. And then he explained that. And afterwards, all of these members of the congregation came up to him and said, thank you for telling us what you believe. We've had Christians here before, we had no idea what they believed. Thank you for being honest with us. So as a Christian, that's what I believe. I believe that Jesus Christ is the promised Messiah. And that is not just true for me, it's true for all of you. Now, I can't force you to believe that. I can't coerce you to believe that. That wouldn't be true faith. But certainly, for a Christian, this idea that somehow the law or the covenants can be done away with, that actually points to a very old heresy, which is called Marcionism. And it's this idea that the God of the Old Testament is this judgmental, wrathful, vengeful God, and that the God of the New Testament is a redeeming, forgiving, loving God. That is a grave heresy that the church has repeatedly condemned. It still manifests itself in various ways in certain Christian circles, but it is a grave heresy. And at the core of it, it rejects that the people of Israel are God's chosen people. And so, as Catholics and as Orthodox Christians, we have no truck or trade with that concept.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Jarrod?
My question is about the Simeon initiative. So
Simeon So the Simeon Initiative, it's important I repeat just so that the live stream can hear. The Simeon Initiative, we understand what you hope Christian pastors get out of the experience. What do you hope Jewish participants take from that? Yeah.
Not necessarily giving up the things that make, without coming to believe that Jesus Christ is the back.
Yeah, other than being,
something short of that.
being converted.
This is not a conversion exercise. Yeah, of course. I mean, it's about getting to know one another. Now, I'll be very frank. This is probably get me into a lot of trouble. They'll never invite me back. But I would be not a good Christian if I didn't say, of course, I would hope that you would come to embrace Jesus Christ as the Messiah. But I can't make that happen. That's up to you. It's up to God. It's a whole bunch of things. But the goal of this Simeon Initiative is so that we can come to know each other better. We had a dinner at the think tank that I am part of in Ottawa, Cardis. And we planned it well before the attacks. But it was in December, just after October, August. And we had Shimon Vogel from CEJA came, and he was our guest. And we had a conversation about what do you think about us and what do you think about you? That was basically the conversation. And there are 20 young Christian professionals at this dinner. It's a group that I helped to run called Communio. Supports young Christian professionals to live out a public faith. And so these are lawyers, doctors, public servants, staffers on Parliament Hill, what have you. All very well educated, and all very well formed Christians in their respective Christian traditions. And so we sat down, and the first thing I asked them, I said, how many of you have Jews as friends? 2 out of 20 hands went up. How many of you have ever been to a synagogue? I think 1 hand went up. How many of you have ever been to a celebration in a Jewish life, whether that's a bar mitzvah or a seder or whatever? I think 1 other hand went up. And I remember Shimon was quite shocked at this. That here are well-formed, faithful, observant Christians who are future Christian leaders in the country who had no experience of spending time with Jews. And then he went on to say that, he said, I think that's probably the case for a lot of Jews. I mean, some Jews are going to have a lot of Christian friends because that's the way the milieu that we live in. But a lot of Christians don't have that interaction. I mean, here you have, my colleagues here don't have much exposure to Jews. So this is very new for them. So this initiative, if we want to build that solidarity and to not only for us to be there for you in anti-Semitism versus ugly head, but when our churches are going to be burned again, please God they're not, but they were, and CEJA issued the best statement when those churches were being burned. They called them hate crimes. No one else called them that, including the Christian leaders. So to be there with one another, to know one another better, and to share our faith in the oneness of God, and to spend time with one another, to become friends with one another. Those bonds of sort of fraternity and solidarity should not be underestimated.
Yeah, I think that churches have a long history of being welcoming institutions because of the proselyting tradition in the church, right? So church wants to be welcoming and bring people in from different backgrounds. We could learn a lot, and maybe as you were speaking, Father Deacon, I'm thinking to myself, what could we do more as a congregation to ensure that this is also a place that is welcoming for Christians who want to come and learn and just experience and meet somebody out of curiosity, and lower the barriers that scare people away from an institution that might seem foreign. So I think we all have a part to play in that, part of which is coming to synagogue. The more you come here, the more this becomes a place where real community can be met, right? And where we become ambassadors for our faith and our values. So I think that this is just the beginning of hopefully a conversation that will magnify, especially with the conference but we have a lot more to gain than in our own separate silos. So thank you so much to Dr. Bennett for some reason being passionate about this issue. I don't care why. I'm just happy that you are. And know that Beth Tikvah Synagogue is a place where you and anybody else who's interested is always welcome. And please consider us friends and